Hello and welcome to Blog of the Net's football podcast, the World Cup edition. And today we're going through to talk about the quarterfinals. We'll have a little look back on the last 16. We'll preview all of those quarterfinal matches, including Norway against England, plus some other discussion points that have happened to this point. So a little look back then, some reflection. How has this World Cup been? The football normally takes care of itself, and that is where the World Cups are judged. But aside from that for a moment, this World Cup has been a shambles. Let's face it. From Omar Artan, the Somali referee, not being allowed into the country to referee, from Iraq flying in from Mexico City and only being allowed in the US, within 24 hours of their games, 4 people were reported dead after the Mexico and Ecuador game, something that I think in terms of news has largely been swept under the rug. The hydration breaks, we've discussed them. We're now up to 576 minutes of hydration breaks. That's 9.6 hours. So if you've sat through all of them, well done. You've wasted nearly 10 hours of your life. The third place teams, we've discussed them. The formatting is quite bad and it took too long to eliminate those weaker nations. And by the way, I'm not having it that this has improved the World Cup. And look at Cape Verde. Cape Verde did not need the third place teams being involved. Firstly, they smashed qualifying. They won 7 out of their 10 qualifiers, finished above Cameroon, got to the tournament automatically, and then finished second in their group anyway. So I'm happy with the Cape Verde story. People who have been following this know this. I love them, but they're not a part of this. We don't need 48 teams, and we certainly don't need to extend it to 64, but that is probably the way we're going to go here. England's kick-off limbo against Mexico was pretty ridiculous. There was like a 6-hour period there where people didn't even know what time it was going to kick off. The England players boarded their plane to Mexico City not knowing when they were kicking off. Terrible. The Balogun situation is the worst of the lot, arguably, in terms of FIFA and decision-making. Donald Trump just admitting he stepped in and said, you shouldn't be doing that it's ridiculous. It's unprecedented, and it's set a bad standard for red cards going forward. Really, really bad. But does the football take care of itself? By the end of the tournament, that is probably what we will be talking about, and hopefully it is what we've been talking about, because the football at this tournament has been really good. So you can't argue in terms of that. So let's talk about some of that football then, and let's start with Cristiano Ronaldo, who has now surely played his last World Cup game. It was his 6th World Cup, of course, and he scored in all 6. That is a record, which will be very, very difficult to beat. He had 19 touches against Spain. It's his 2nd lowest playing at a World Cup where he started a match. He's had 27 appearances at World Cups in total. He's only 2nd behind Messi. At this tournament, he had 17 shots and 0 chances created. It's the most shots by a player without a single chance created since records began. He's attempted 0 dribbles in his last 9 matches. That's across all competitions, including the Saudi League. And he's not completed a dribble in his last 15 matches. To say that Cristiano Ronaldo has slowed down would obviously be an understatement. It's been well discussed, but those are a few numbers for you there. He finishes his World Cup career with 11 goals, which is not to be sniffed at, even though he has played quite a lot of games. 10 of those goals were in the group stages. His first knockout goal came in this World Cup, a penalty against Croatia. What next for Cristiano Ronaldo?
To be fair, I don't care.
Okay, let's talk about the quarterfinals. We are finally down to the last 8. The last 16 sort of felt like the quarterfinals because it was the 5th game for teams, and yeah, it's all just a bit muddled with that last 32 phase. But been good so far, and we've got some nice matchups. Let's begin with France and Morocco. That is going to be our first quarter-final. And I think this is going to be a very tricky game for France, who have found it relatively straightforward up to now. They haven't had the easiest games, but their knockout games have not been sort of too difficult. Paraguay was clearly an awkward one, and they've done well to sort of come through it, given Paraguay tried to kick them off the pitch. Amazingly, in that game, France picked up 3 yellow cards and Paraguay picked up 0. Remarkable if you saw what the Paraguayans were up to. Sweden game prior to that, France really just toyed with Sweden. They had it, it was pretty straightforward for them. I don't think it was altogether too difficult. They've scored the most goals so far at this tournament. France with 14, that's tied with Argentina. We've all been we're really impressed with how they are going forward. That front four, devastating, with Mbappe scoring 7 goals. He's got 2 assists. And Michael Olise has got 5 assists. Dembele just behind Mbappe with 4 goals. So we can really see what they're contributing to that attack. France have had an average of 60% possession. That is the same as Morocco. So something's going to have to give here. Kone and Olise are on yellow card suspensions if they get booked in this game, so they would miss the semi-final. One of the most interesting bits of statistics I've found around France, though, is that they are bottom of the final 8 when it comes... In fact, they're bottom of all of the last 16 when it comes to running stats. They've covered the least distance of all of the last 16, which... You can argue this many ways. They haven't had to do a lot of running. I would say that they probably should have. They've got so much quality that they can rely on those guys. I get it. I think in the latter parts of this, Morocco next. It could be Spain in the semi-final. We won't get too ahead of ourselves, but Morocco first. Morocco have averaged 95 more sprints per game than France during this tournament. I think this is going to be a really tricky one. The bookmakers have got Morocco at just a 15% chance to win the game. As mentioned, Morocco have also averaged a 60% possession over the course of the tournament. They held 49% against Brazil, so dropped slightly. So I think that's a pattern we can probably expect to drop down against France. But they've dominated all of their games. Otherwise, Morocco have given up 1 big chance in each of their 5 matches. So 5 in total. Morocco keeping it really, really tight. They got wins against Scotland, Haiti and Canada, of course, and made it really tough for Brazil and the Netherlands. In fact, they really dominated the Netherlands game, just edging them out on penalties. But unlucky probably not to win that in regulation time. Saibar looks like he's going to be injured. He came off against Canada, and Rahimi came on there and scored a goal. So that'll be a straight swap, you would think. Brahim Diaz is impressed for Morocco. He's got 4 assists after his AFCON nightmare. He's been sort of just quietly very, very effective for the Moroccans. Halal and El Kanous are on potential yellow card suspensions. If they get booked in this one, they could miss the semi-final. So what do I make of it? It's hard to look past France, isn't it? I think there are some problems for France in their midfield. It could get overrun. We've talked about their running stats already. It's not how France operate. I've also talked about how Deschamps likes to set up the team earlier in this tournament. It's very much defensive stability, let the front four do their thing, and it sounds good. It sounds like something that he should be doing. I'm not suggesting that he shouldn't, but I think if they pick up Spain in the semi-final, if they got through this, I think it could become even more difficult. It is so hard to look past France, though. They look so devastating. So I'm going to go with France and a 2-1 win. I think it will be close, but I'm backing France. Next up in the quarterfinals is Spain and Belgium. The winner of this would face the winner of the France and Morocco game. Spain haven't conceded a goal yet. That's a problem. They've given up 4 big chances and 0.3 XG against per game. So, yeah, very, very solid defensively. Kept the ball very well. Created their chances, and they, I wouldn't say they've gone quietly about their business. I think most people are looking at Spain and know they're pretty devastating, but a lot of the talk has been on France, and Spain were my tip before the tournament. and nothing has really changed so far. They have not had, super easy games. They had to negotiate Uruguay, who really wanted to get through in that group stage. They were in complete control against Portugal. Spain are the first team in history to record 6 consecutive clean sheets, one of those being at the last World Cup where they were eliminated by Morocco on penalties. Could face Morocco in the next round, of course, but that was a 0-0. And as I said, they've not conceded in this one yet. We've not seen the best of Lamine Yamal. Is that a worry? It probably is. He's still been very efficient. He's had 4 starts. Came off the bench in that first game because he's not quite been fit. So that is clearly contributing to this. He's still 5th on the list for most successful dribbles in the entire tournament. He's averaged 4.9 successful dribbles. And in La Liga last season, he averaged 5.3 across the entire season. So not too much different. You maybe would expect a little bit better at the World Cup given the disparity in quality in teams. But I think once he starts firing and starts doing things, that could be really devastating. Now is the time to do it. So, good or bad for Spain, I guess we'll see. Belgium have had a topsy-turvy World Cup. They've averaged 21.4 shots per game. It's the most of anyone at the tournament. It's 107 shots across the tournament. Nobody else has registered more than 100. And they've had 73 shots inside the opposition box. That's also a record, which makes this a really intriguing matchup against Spain, whose defensive record, as mentioned, has been so strong. Belgium have also run further than any other side at the tournament. 4 of their players, I should say, are in the top 10 there, with Yuri Tielemans top of the pile. Incidentally, Lionel Messi is the bottom of the pile of runners on average, so running's probably a little bit overrated anyway. Leandro Trossard has created 17 chances at this tournament. That's the most of anyone. And good to see Charles de Ketelaere scoring a couple of goals and getting an assist in that last game. I think he really needed it. And it keeps Belgium's system of bringing Lukaku on and into games alive, because their centre-forward in de Ketelaere has scored a couple of goals now. He's not a prolific goal scorer. He often plays as an attacking midfielder. He only scored 5 goals for Atalanta in over 40 games last season. But this is a good one for him. Lukaku himself, he's got 3 goals and an assist at this tournament in 200 minutes. 75 of those minutes were against Senegal, where they went to extra time. It was his 93rd goal for Belgium in that last game as they hammered USA. And he's averaging a goal or an assist every 50 minutes off the bench. You can't argue with that. He's done so well. Belgium, they were really dominant against USA. I thought USA were truly poor, and probably the result did FIFA a favour that USA didn't go through in some respect after the Balogun incident. But yeah, can't argue with what Belgium did. They did dominate. They fought back superbly against Senegal in one of the games of the tournament, and they beat New Zealand quite handily after a slow start to the tournament. So they're building into the tournament. Ferran Torres is a yellow card away from suspension with Spain, and Mechele, their centre-back for Belgium, is also a suspension away with a yellow card. So how do I see that one going? Again, I can only go for the favourites here. I can only go for Spain. And despite all of Belgium's promising attacking displays, it is against slightly lesser opposition, and I do think Spain can keep another side at bay. If they did concede, and if they did concede first, it could keep it interesting, but I think Spain will win this one 2-0. Next up, we'll go for Argentina and Switzerland, the 4th of the quarterfinals. Notice the order here. Argentina have scored joint most goals with 14 with France, as mentioned previously. They've got 4 big chances against at the tournament, very low. That's the same as Spain, and they've only conceded 5 times, Argentina. Their games have felt quite open. They have conceded goals in these knockout stages, of course. And if you watch the Egypt game, you'd have seen one of the games of the tournament and seen just how much they've struggled in that game. If you'd only looked at the numbers of that game and you didn't watch it, you probably wouldn't get an idea of exactly what happened. Now, context is key here, because they were 1-0 down at half-time, and Egypt just kept going. They had another goal disallowed before making it 2-0. But it was 6-2 on big chances in favour of Argentina. They had 19 shots to Egypt's 5, 34 touches to 8 in the opposition box. And Argentina had 64% possession. As I said, those numbers really, really promising. But boy, did they leave it late to pull it back. And it was extremely close. And in the end, Egypt should feel quite hard done by. I think, besides the Salah potential foul in the build-up, I think Fatty is pulled back by McAllister slightly before that. I think it should have been looked at. I think he impedes him from going into the box, and affecting play. And I think it should be a yellow card and a foul and a penalty. And therefore, you would be reversing the whole thing. Argentina don't score, Egypt get a penalty. It's such a brave thing to do. I'm not sure about the Salah one. I think it's more contentious. But Argentina slipping through. Messi with another penalty miss, of course, in that one. He's now taken 8 penalties at World Cups and missed 4, not including shootouts. He has, of course, scored 8 goals in this tournament. He is the top goal scorer and got 1 assist. And as mentioned, lowest for the running stats, but running's overrated, clearly, if Messi is the top goal scorer at this tournament. Montiel is on a yellow card for Argentina. He would face a suspension if he picked up another one for the semi-final. Switzerland, perhaps surprisingly, went through against Colombia on penalties. How much should we be surprised by Switzerland? They have been a knockout team for quite some time now. They knocked Italy out of Euro 2024 quite handily. They drew with Germany and England, of course, at the tournament. They lost on penalties to England. At the last Euros, they knocked France out on penalties, and they drew with Spain and ended up losing that on penalties. I realise that is going back 5 years now, but 14 of that squad at the Euros in 2021 are still here today, and they're just a very well-organised, difficult-to-beat team. And Colombia just didn't have enough, really. Colombia's numbers across the tournament are pretty good. They kept 4 consecutive clean sheets, Colombia, only conceded in that opening game, but they just didn't quite do enough. Despite giving up 3 big chances, they only scored 5 goals. And 1 goal per game is just not good enough. And that's, Switzerland stayed in there. It was a game that, they may have lost on the stats, but they've gone through in the penalty shootout. And I think they'll make it very, very awkward for Argentina. Xhaka, Zakaria and Mulheim are all on yellow cards for Switzerland, so they would face suspension as well if they picked up another one. This is such a close one to call. I can see this being a draw and it going to penalties. Either side could take that, of course, but I am going to say Argentina edge this. Be that on penalties, maybe they need extra time. I can see that being a 2-1 to Argentina. And Argentina get through to the semi-finals. And so Norway against England, it's going to be a good game this, I think. 2 teams who have got good attacking numbers. Let's start with Norway. Based on the rankings, they've had the hardest run. You would kind of expect that. They were a lower seeded team, but they faced Senegal and France and Brazil and the Ivory Coast. They've not had it easy across this tournament. In fact, they got spanked by France in the group stage, in that 3rd group stage, but their underlying numbers were really, really strong. They matched France in a lot of departments, and they made 11 changes to their starting lineup, completely turning it over from the win against Senegal, and yet still remain very competitive. And if it's not for Dembele hitting some worldies, who knows where that could have gone. But as for their starting 11 and their regular 11, it's been impressive in every single game. They have taken the fewest shots of the last 8, and they have conceded the most, Norway. But their conversion rate and what they've done with that has been really, really impressive, because they've had 21 big chances. That is the 3rd joint most so far. It's a couple behind England, and it's level with France. They've had 15 big chances against, so again, the 21 forward, big 15 against, and it's kind of can be chaos in Norway matches. It's 3 big chances per game conceded. It might be too much for these latter stages, but we will come on to that. 9 goals against at a 8.1 XG against. There have been 21 goals in Norway games, so for or against. That is the most. And when you compare that with someone like Spain, where Spain games have only had 9 goals, you really see just how exciting the Norway games have been. Haaland is on 7 goals at a 4.3 XG. He's had 18 shots. That just proves again how clinical they've been. How reliant they are on him, sure, but he's one of the best centre-forwards in the world, if he's not the best centre-forward himself. So, yeah, they would hope for him to continue that, and he often outkicks his numbers. He often has better output than his XG, so not a surprise there. Norway, they've set up in a 4-3-3 in every game. They've got Haaland running through the middle. Sorloth and Nusa will play as the wingers you would expect against England. They've started every game. Sorloth is not a traditional right winger. He's a centre forward that has been largely shoehorned out to that right wing, and he's only had 3 shots across the entire tournament, which is extremely low for someone who scores his fair share of goals, but he's got no goals or assists at this tournament so far. Nusa, a more traditional left winger, has had some good games, but he's only had 3 shots himself. He scored against the Ivory Coast in their last 32 match, of course. Both were subbed against Brazil at half time, and I think those changes that Norway made were really, really positive, particularly Sheldrup, who came on down the left wing. He ended up getting 2 assists, the first of which was really, really smart work for Haaland's header. He's now got 3 assists across the tournament, having come off the bench and got another one elsewhere. I want to talk a little bit about Martin Ødegaard, who I don't think has looked quite right in the last sort of year or two. He's picked up so many injuries. He's had knee injuries previously in his career, and it's kept him in and out of the Arsenal team. No shame in not being in the Arsenal team, the Premier League champions, of course. And he's got 3 assists at this tournament with just 4 chances created. So his 3 assists, really good, but possibly lucky given the number of chances he's created compared with someone like Trossard, who's at the top of that with 17. He's not been quite himself, and there's been moments this tournament where I feel his execution could have been slightly better, but he's still such an important player for Norway, and he's still so capable, and he always gets through lots of running and makes it difficult for his opponents. So he'll be one to watch for sure. Of course he will be. Moving backwards, Christopher Ager, their centre-back at Brentford. 11 defensive contributions per game is the most of any player remaining in the tournament. Huge numbers. A very steady and reliable centre-back who's having a very good tournament. So he's going to be really, really important. Of course, Nyland in their goal, who has been one of the goalkeepers of the tournament and put in one of the most outstanding individual performances from a goalkeeper against Brazil. Saved a penalty, made that outrageous save that would have been a spectacular own goal to give Brazil an equaliser, but managed to just run back and tip it off behind the post. And he made a number of really good saves. And unfortunately, I can see England getting frustrated by him in this game. I hope it doesn't come to pass. I hope it doesn't end in disaster. But he's someone that we're going to have to do well to beat because he's having a very good tournament. I'd mention Ahmed Nusa on the left wing. He's the only player for Norway who runs risk of a suspension. Should he pick up a yellow card in this game, he would miss the semi-final. And so, what of England then? Well, England have created the most big chances at this tournament with 23. That is 4.6 per game. And the against, well, England have conceded just 6 big chances, 1.2 per game. So, really tidy numbers throughout the tournament. England had really tidy numbers at the last Euros and kept that run going. Can we keep this run going against Norway? It is going to be tough. We were dominated by Mexico. I've covered that game at length, of course, but I think we showed something in that Mexico game that people thought we lacked and couldn't do for England, and that is backs to the wall job. When you're under pressure and you're under the cosh, can we keep a team out? hold on to a lead and see it through. I think people were expecting extra time, if not penalties, but we managed to do it. And I think that is, it's kind of English culture to me. I think in the other games, we've performed a little bit better than people have given us credit for, certainly in terms of chances created, chances given up, and our general football, which I realise sometimes has been side to side and it has been a slower build-up. But against teams in a low block, it is really difficult. And I think fans are happy with the Mexico performance because they've seen something in that we don't see and haven't seen from England in many a year, and that is that grit and that determination and tackles and winning duels and headers and clearances. It's everything that it was in that last 15 to 20 minutes. And as I said, I think England fans identify with that. They understand that. And so I think we're going to need a little bit of everything against Norway. I think the DR Congo game is an example of where if you change the order of all the things that happened, then I think people could be satisfied with the performance. I know people were so frustrated with that performance and said Harry Kane bailed us out, but I realise you change the orders of things in football, it changes the game. But I just think the actions that England made across the game were still very positive. The DR Congo keeper was having a worldie. He made so many good saves. That tells you something. England created so many good and big chances. And we conceded early, which makes it nervy. We didn't score until late, which keeps it nervy. I understand there are emotions, but it was still quite positive. There was a lot to go with. And to be honest, I wasn't that worried that we were going to score. I know that seems easy to say after the fact, but we only needed one to even take it to extra time. We managed to. We've got world-class players who can do that. And it was a different kind of thing against Mexico, of course, but I think we've shown that we can do it in a number of different ways now. Henderson, of course, will be out. Jordan Henderson, of course, not to be confused with Dean. Quansah will be suspended. I don't believe Donald Trump has written to FIFA to get that one overturned. And the big question for England is Reece James, will he be fit? There is a suggestion that he could well be. He was involved in the warm-up for the Mexico game as the players warmed up in the stadium. He has been training. I think it could be a bit of a race against time. He would probably be safer from the bench, but we really do need a right back. We have tried many things. Quansah played there towards the end of the game against Mexico, and I think I'd probably expect him to start with Stones and Gahey at centre-back. Will that familiar Manchester City partnership be good against Erling Haaland? Let's hope so, if that is the way we go. The other way I could see that Jed Spence there's been a suggestion he's not fit either, I should say, that he's a doubt. So it could well be him out at right back. I can't decide which I prefer, to be perfectly honest with you. Do you prefer Spence in the 1v1s with Noosa? But I think Quansah is still a safe bet there. I'm okay with that. O'Reilly at left back, Rice and Anderson in midfield, Bellingham playing in front, and I would expect Saka to start on the right. I thought he was very, very bright, particularly after he opened or helped open the scoring for England with that assist. He had to come off, of course. It was tactical when we'd had the red card. So I think he will start. And I think Anthony Gordon has to start after his last performance. Not only was it really positive in terms of his runs forward and committing people and getting into the box, winning a penalty, of course, but his work rate and what he did to shore it up and really help England in midfield in those latter stages. So I think he's earned that start. And Kane will start at centre forward, of course. Mentioning, Haaland, there's been a lot made in the last few days about Big Dan Burn after his performance against Mexico and some of his roughhousery against Haaland in the Premier League. I don't expect him to start there, although if Quansah starts at right back and we're looking for a partnership with Gahey and we don't go with Stones, stranger things have happened. I don't expect it, but we could see that. England have got a bit of a suspension problem. Jude Bellingham, Nico O'Reilly, Declan Rice and Mark Gahey all run the risk of suspension. That is the most. 4 players is the most of any team at the tournament running that risk in terms of picking up a yellow card and missing the semi-final. So we're dicing with danger here with 4 very important players. We really can't afford them to pick up yellows. Of course, this result is what matters the most. We must attempt to win this game and try and get through this game. We haven't played Norway in quite some time. The last time was 2014 in a friendly, and we haven't played them competitively since 1993, which was a World Cup qualifier, and we lost.
Go, Les! Hit Les! Hit Les over the top! Fucking hell! Now then. Now this is a test, isn't it? Yeah, it's a real test. This is a real test. Went to fucking sleep, didn't we? Hey.
Some iconic lines from that. We should just enjoy it. Phil Neal being just such a yes man and agreeing with everything Graham Taylor had to say, but none more so than in that Norway game, which we lost 2-0 away. It can't be like that again, although the thought of listening to Thomas Tuchel shout hit Harry in his accent would be quite fun, even if it is a little bit desperate. Let's see. I think England are going to win this game. I think it's going to be 2-1 to England. Not so confident on the score, but I do think England will edge out Norway and we will have enough. I expect us to have enough. Get through to another semi-final would be brilliant. I know we're a seeded team. I know the draw has kept us apart from those other seeds, but I still think getting to the last 4 of a World Cup is a tremendous achievement. And yep, I do back us to do it, and I think we will. Right, so that's your lot. That's your preview for the quarterfinals. I've said everything I need to say. Get yourself in the comments to let me know what you think, and enjoy the last 8. Goodbye.